Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So we've been playing a lot of Standard lately, and it's time to break it up a little bit and head to Modern. So this week, we're heading to Modern to play a deck that actually takes advantage of some Standard cards. This is Tempered Tokens, basically a mono-white artifact token beatdown deck looking to get aggressive and use Tempered Steel, which is one of the most powerful Anthem effects in all of Magic, giving artifact creatures +2/+2 for just 3 mana. Static effect just sitting out there gets really crazy. So as you can see, $92 in the paper world, only 41 ticks on Magic Online, so not a bad price, especially for a format as expensive as Modern. A quick reminder before we break down Tempered Tokens for Modern. If you enjoy Budget Magic and the other series here on the channel, it would be amazing of you if you could take a quick second, click that subscribe button down in the corner of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk Tempered Tokens, starting with the namesake card, Tempered Steel. And Tempered Steel is just like the ultimate Anthem effect. 3 mana, enchantment, double white, gives all artifact creatures we control not +1/+1 but +2/+2. This means a random 1/1 artifact creature is suddenly a 3/3. It just gets really out of control really quickly. The trick to harnessing the power of Tempered Steel is obviously just getting a lot of artifact creatures on the battlefield, and thanks to some new cards along with some old cards, we actually have a lot of ways to put servo tokens on the battlefield these days. So the big synergy of the deck, or one of the coolest things the deck can do, is Shrine of the Loyal Legions. 2 mana artifact, sits out on the battlefield, every turn it gets a charge counter, or when we cast a white spell, we get a charge counter, and then for 3 mana we can sack it and we get a 1/1 colorless Myr artifact creature token for each charge counter on it. So if we play this on turn 2, maybe we play Tempered Steel on turn 3, get a charge counter, we're adding charge counters at the start of our turn, eventually we're going to crack this for, let's say, the 3 mana and get maybe 5 tokens. 7 tokens. Normally, these would just be 1/1s. Not that threatening. Like, sure, a bunch of chump blockers, maybe we can go wide and win. But when you consider Tempered Steel is making these 1/1s into 3/3s, it's a really powerful effect. It often is putting like 15 power on the battlefield on turn 4, on turn 5, which is just an insane amount of power. More importantly, we can crack it on our opponent's end step, and then just untap, immediately attack with all of our tempered up Myr tokens and win the game. So that's one of the ways we can get a bunch of artifacts on the battlefield. We also have a bunch of ways to just make servo tokens and Myr tokens. So Servo Exhibition might not look like much. 2 1/1 servos for 2 mana. It's like a raise the alarm at sorcery speed. It's fine. But when you consider Tempered Steel, after we have a Tempered Steel down, it's just making 2 3/3. 6 power and toughness for 2 mana. Master's Call is making 6 power and toughness, just like Servo Exhibition. 1 more mana, but it comes down to instant speed, so we can do some tricky chump blocking or play at the end of our opponent's turn. And then Sram's Expertise is absurd in this deck. Casting it, making 9 power and toughness with a Tempered Steel out. Sometimes we Sram's Expertise into a Servo Exhibition. That's giving us a total of 5 1/1 servos that'll be 3/3s with Tempered Steel. 15 power and toughness for just 4 mana. Such an easy way to close out the game. Plus, we can use Sram's Expertise to play our Tempered Steel. So sometimes on turn 4 we just Sram's Expertise, get the servo tokens, play the Tempered Steel. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, we just put a ton of power and toughness on the battlefield to close out the game. These are also all white cards, so they're triggering our Shrine of the Loyal Legions to get more counters to eventually make a ton of tokens there as well. So that's kind of the primary plan of the deck, is just to make these 1/1s, but make them 3/3s, or if we get 2 Tempered Steels, 5/5s, and beat our opponent down really quickly. We also have some backup ways of putting artifacts and artifact tokens on the battlefield. Hangarback Walker gives us a 2-drop that not only benefits from Tempered Steel itself, since it's an artifact creature, as we tick it up across the course of the game, we're able to make a bunch of servos when it dies. So one of the cool things here is Hangarback Walker can actually be just played for 0 mana if we have a Tempered Steel out, because Tempered Steel, going to give it +2/+2. It'll be a 2/2 for 0. And then, as we have extra mana, we can just start ticking it up, making it bigger. Eventually it dies, and we're getting a bunch of 3/3 servo tokens. Another great way to close out the game. Blade Splicer, white card, so it triggers our Shrine. Also gives us a 3/3 First Striking Golem, which is often a 5/5 First Striking Golem. Another 3-mana card that basically puts 6 power and toughness on the battlefield across multiple bodies if we have a Tempered Steel out. And then we just have one Angel of Invention, which is kind of a backup Tempered Steel. Not as powerful, but it gives us some artifact tokens if we want it to. Also pumps our creatures even further, making them into even bigger threats. So that's basically the plan of the deck. Stick the Tempered Steel, play a bunch of tokens, kill our opponent before they have a chance to recover. Also worth mentioning that we're an artifact-based deck, but we're not an artifact-based deck that cares about Stony Silence. So, like, sure, you shut down our Hangerback Walker, but for the most part, our artifacts are just creatures that want to beat down, so we don't really care if our opponent sideboards it in. The other sweet synergy of the deck is Smuggler's Copter, which is a 5/5 flyer if we have a Tempered Steel out, dodging Lightning Bolt, beating our opponent down really quickly. Also really important to looting away extra lands, helping us find more action. We have so many 1/1s, it's super easy for our deck to crew. So you can imagine our nut draw in this deck is something like just play a Thraben Inspector on turn 1, play a Smuggler's Copter on turn 2, play a Tempered Steel on turn 3, attack with the Smuggler's Copter, do some looting, follow it up with Sram's Expertise, making like 9 power and toughness, plus playing maybe another servo generator off the Sram's Expertise for free, and suddenly, on turn 4, we just have like 25 power on the battlefield, and our opponent's at a point where they basically gotta answer what we're doing, or they're just gonna die. The last creature in the deck, Thraben Inspector, doesn't actually work directly with our Tempered Steel. It does make an artifact token, but it's not a creature. Just comes down on turn 1, lets us crew our Smuggler's Copter, chump blocks, gives us a little bit of card advantage. It's mostly just curve filler, though. We needed something to do on turn 1. In Modern, it's really important to have that turn 1 play. It's hard to just pass on turn 1 when everyone else is doing something. So Thraben Inspector just gives us something to do on the first turn of the game, and is actually pretty powerful. Path to Exile is our primary removal spell. Gets anything for just a single mana. If you're in white, it's just the best removal spell there is in the format. As far as the mana base, we get a bunch of planes, a couple of Ghost Quarters to deal with Tron pieces and the like. In the sideboard, we have a bunch of ways of protecting our battlefield. So that's one of our concerns. Anger of the Gods, for example. Supreme Verdict. Those are ways our opponent can get out from under our huge swarm of massive tokens and artifact creatures. Selfless Spirit fizzles basically anything. We just sacrifice it, makes all of our creatures indestructible. So if you're Supreme Verdicting, not going to do anything. Can fizzle a targeted removal spell. Can fizzle an Anger of the Gods. Brighted Forge Tender kind of does double duty. It fizzles a Pyroclasm and Anger of the Gods by countering a red spell, essentially. Can also stop a Conflagrate at our face, a Lightning Storm at our face, some big burn spell. Gives us a little bit of hate against burn. It has protection from red, so it just blocks Goblin Guides for infinity. Then we have Gideon's Intervention and Dawn Charm is our primary answer to combo decks. One of the weaknesses of being mono white on a budget is we don't get Leyline of Sanctity. We really struggle in fast combo matchups. We can make a lot of blockers. We can make a lot of big threats to beat through creature decks, but if our opponent's just storming off on turn 4 or something along those lines, we're going to have a hard time keeping up with that. So Gideon's Intervention is our best bet for staying alive in those matchups. We can name Ad Nauseam. We can name Gifts Ungiven against Storm, something like that. Dawn's Charm gives us another way to protect our face from Conflagrates, from Lightning Storms, from cards like that, while also just giving us some weird general value. We can counter a removal spell on one of our creatures by regenerating it. We're also able to fog if we need to, and we're trying to win a race. Our opponent goes on a big attack. We can fog and kill them on the crackback. So a lot of different things that Dawn Charm does pretty well. Oblivion Ring, Condemn, and Disenchant give us a bit more removal. Oblivion Ring hits anything. Condemn, kind of like a backup Path to Exile, especially good against decks like Death Shadow, where the life gain we're giving our opponent is actually a bad thing. And then Disenchant for artifact and enchantments. For graveyards, we have Tormod's Crypt, and that is tempered tokens for Modern. And that's our budget Magic deck for this week. So I think this deck is pretty fun. Like I mentioned, we struggle with the combo matchup. That's just a downside of being a mono white deck on a budget. We just don't have some of the big combo hate cards that are pretty expensive, but we put a lot of creatures on the battlefield, and we do put our opponent to the test. It's not that we can't beat combo, it's that we need our opponent to not have their very best draw. If they stumble a little bit by like a turn, our huge board of creatures and tokens can just overwhelm our opponent and kill them before they get a chance to combo off. So that's kind of what our deck is all about. We're great against creature-based decks because we have so many cards that make multiple creatures, and then those creatures are actually going to be really, really big. Having things like Shrine of the Loyal Legions and Smuggler's Copter really help against control decks or threats that are really hard to deal with, can win the game on their own. So our main challenge is trying to win the combo matchups, which is a challenge, but I think that if we get a little bit lucky, opponent stumbles a little bit, we do have a shot in those matchups, but it's definitely our weaker matchups. Regardless, if you like beating down, going wide, making your threats really big with a really powerful anthem, you might like this deck. So anyway, that's our budget Magic deck for this week. Tempered Tokens for Modern. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, take a second and click that like button down below. It's a great way to help support the channel for free. And you can find the next video in the playlist right here.